There is a kind of person you probably know. They are the one who always seems fine, the one who laughs easily, listens well, shows up for everyone around them, the one you would describe as strong, reliable, steady. And behind all of that, quietly, consistently, invisibly, they are carrying something nobody around them knows about. Not because they are dishonest, not because they don't trust the people around them, but because somewhere along the way, they learned that showing how they really feel was not safe, that their emotions were too much, or not enough, or simply not welcome in the rooms they needed to belong to. So they learned to hide them. And they got very, very good at it. The psychology of emotional concealment almost always begins in childhood, not necessarily in dramatic or obvious ways, not always in homes with visible trauma or clear neglect. Sometimes it begins in the quietest, most ordinary circumstances. A parent who was too busy, or too tired, or too overwhelmed to hold space for big feelings. A family where strength was valued and vulnerability was not. A classroom where showing emotion made you a target. Psychologist John Bowlby's attachment theory tells us that children learn very early whether their emotional expression will be met with attunement or with dismissal. When a child cries and is comforted, they learn emotions are safe, connection is reliable, I can show what I feel and be held. When a child cries and is told to stop, or is ignored, or is made to feel like a burden, they learn something very different. They learn that feelings are problems, that emotions need to be managed before they are expressed, that the way to stay connected is not to show what's really happening inside, but to present a version of themselves that the people around them can handle. That lesson, learned at 4 or 5 or 6 years old, does not stay in childhood. It travels. Here is what happens over time to people who learn to hide how they feel. The hiding becomes so practiced, so automatic, so deeply habitual that it stops feeling like hiding. It starts feeling like personality. They genuinely believe they are fine until something cracks the surface and they discover they are not. They genuinely believe they don't need much until the loneliness of never being known becomes impossible to ignore. They genuinely believe they are handling things until the body, which has been keeping score the whole time, starts presenting the bill. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades studying micro-expressions, the involuntary flickers of genuine emotion that cross a face in under a quarter of a second before the social mask reasserts itself. What he found was striking. Even the most practiced emotional concealers cannot fully suppress what they feel. The body always leaks, the jaw tightens, the breath shortens, the eyes change just slightly before the smile corrects them. The emotion doesn't disappear. It goes underground, and underground without air and without expression, it does not dissolve. It accumulates. Research from the University of Texas by psychologist James Pennebaker spent decades studying what happens physiologically when people suppress emotional expression. The findings were consistent and alarming. Emotional suppression, the active, ongoing effort to inhibit the outward expression of what you feel, is associated with significantly elevated cortisol levels, increased cardiovascular strain, suppressed immune function, and higher rates of anxiety and depression. In other words, the effort of looking fine is making people physically unwell because suppression is not the same as resolution. Suppression is energy. It is the cognitive and physiological equivalent of holding a door closed against something pushing from the other side. You can hold it for a long time, but holding it costs something, and the longer you hold it, the more it costs. Pennebaker also found something hopeful. When people were given the opportunity to express what they had been suppressing, through writing, through conversation, through therapy, their immune function improved, their cortisol levels dropped, their health outcomes changed. The body, it turns out, does not need you to be resolved. It needs you to be honest. Here is the question most people ask when they learn this. If hiding how you feel is costing this much, why don't people just stop? The answer is that for most people who hide their feelings, the concealment is not a choice they are making in the present. It is a survival strategy they built in the past that is still running on automatic. And more than that, it works. In the short term, it works extremely well. People who hide how they feel are often extraordinarily functional. They are reliable. They are composed in crises. They are the person everyone calls when things go wrong. They have built lives and careers and relationships on top of the architecture of emotional concealment, and dismantling it feels not like healing, but like destruction. There is also something else, something that psychologist Brené Brown has written about extensively, the terror of being seen. Because for someone who learned early that their real feelings were too much or not enough, vulnerability is not uncomfortable, it is dangerous. Showing what they actually feel means risking the exact thing they spent a lifetime learning to prevent: rejection, dismissal, the confirmation that they are, in fact, too much. So they keep hiding, not because they don't want to be known, but because being known feels like the most frightening thing in the world. Beyond the physical cost, there is a relational one. People who hide how they really feel are chronically, deeply, invisibly lonely. Not because they lack relationships. Many of them have full social lives, long friendships, loving families. But because every relationship they have is built on a version of them rather than the whole of them. They are known for their strength, their humor, their reliability. They are not known for their fear, their grief, their need. And you cannot be truly close to someone you do not truly know. This creates a painful paradox. The very behavior that was designed to keep connection safe, hiding the parts that might push people away, is the behavior that prevents real connection from ever forming. The armor that was built for protection becomes the wall that keeps intimacy out. The research is clear about what helps, and it is not, as many people fear, a sudden and total dismantling of the wall. It begins with something smaller, with one person, one relationship, one moment of telling the truth about what is actually happening rather than what is presentable. Pennebaker's research showed that even 15 minutes of honest writing about suppressed emotions, not shared with anyone, just expressed, produced measurable physiological benefits. The body does not require an audience for honesty to help. It requires expression. And over time, with the right people in the right relationships, something shifts. The world does not end when they say they are not fine. The person across from them does not leave. The feared rejection does not arrive. And slowly, quietly, the part of them that has been hidden for so long begins to understand that it might be safe to exist. If you recognized yourself in any part of this, the part that always says fine, the part that shows up for everyone and lets nobody show up for you, you are not too much. You are not a burden. You are someone who learned to survive in the only way that felt safe. And surviving was the right thing to do. But you don't have to keep surviving. You can start being known. If this resonated, share it with someone who needed to hear it.